Hello? Guys, it is good to see everybody, and I start every week by welcoming our campuses. So for those of you hanging out with us in Racine, we love you. Those of you who join us faithfully week after week after week online, whether you're watching us, listening to a podcast, we welcome all of you. And to the Kenosha campus, welcome you. To the beautiful people in the room with me, we welcome all of you. Well, several months ago, there was a couple in our church who had connected with me about the possibility of doing their wedding. Didn't really know the couple. I recognized them, and I think I might have been able to tell you their names, but that was pretty much it. And kind of a rule of thumb of mine is I do not officiate weddings that of people at this point who are not family or really close friends. And it's not trying to be mean. It genuinely, with the chaos of the church, right? Couple campuses, got a Wednesday night, have a Sunday morning services, have online stuff, and then the traveling that I do, it's not possible for me to do weddings for everybody. And so as they email me the details and I'm reading through it, they talk about how it's going to be at Disney World, and they talk about, hey, you're going to fly down, stay at a resort and whatnot. The reason I tell you all of this is if I look a little tired today, it's because I just got back from Florida, ladies and gentlemen. All right, my hard and fast rule had to change. I did not forward that email to another staff member. And if you've ever wondered about the depth of my character, right, the condition of my soul, you now know. So here's the deal. Today, we are wrapping up a teaching series that we've been in for several weeks called At Your Best. Next week, we're launching a brand new series called #Blessed. And what we're doing in the #Blessed series is we're looking at the different areas of life in which God blesses us, but we don't necessarily see it as a blessing. Things that actually can feel like burdens, God can actually be giving, allowing us to experience that burden as a blessing in our life. And so we're going to talk about that, and I hope you'll be here, and I hope it's going to be a blessing to you. Now, I have spoken for years off of my iPad. I never had what just happened right now. It completely went blank, but apparently it's slowly coming back here. All right, so you're going to have to just give me a second to find my place. This is how we roll at Great Lakes Church. All right, so we're wrapping up this series. Here's what we've been talking about if you're new. We are at our best when our relationships are thriving and strong. Okay, this is really the summary of the series. We're at our best when our relationships are thriving and strong. I mean, just think about it, because we can accomplish, we can achieve, we can accumulate all sorts of things, but if our relationships are falling apart, we're still not going to be happy and we're still not going to be fulfilled. And so this series has been about building better relationships by really working hard to improve our communication. So 2,000 years ago, the Apostle Paul, he actually writes to followers of Jesus. It's been the key verse throughout the series, but he writes about the power of communication, and he says this: do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen. Now, this is a brilliant summary of the power of our words that Paul writes here. In this sentence, he really gives us 4 key thoughts. Here they are. Avoid hurtful words, say helpful words, know what someone needs to hear, and say things in a way they can receive it. And this is so important to really walk through all 4 of these thoughts, because here's the reality. We've been talking about how, based on the temperament of the person we are talking to, we can unknowingly say hurtful words. We can try to say helpful words that come across different than how we intend. It is totally possible for us to say the right thing, but in the wrong way and at the wrong timing to a specific person based on their temperament. And so to move forward, with the goal of being at our best in this life, we have to learn to communicate to people in a way that they receive it, in a way that benefits them. And this happens by understanding temperament. So that's what this teaching series has been about. And today we're going to wrap it up by continuing to talk about it. And we're going to talk very specifically today about the temperament of children. All right, that's where we're going to zero in on. And if you don't have kids, the good news is you can apply this really to any relationship in your life. You can apply this to a spouse. You can apply it to a parent. You can apply it to a coworker. But we're talking about it as it relates to kids. And so if you are a parent or a grandparent or an aunt or an uncle or a teacher or you volunteer with kids, you have kids in your life, I'm promising you, you need to pay attention because what we're going to talk about here is so, so powerful. As a matter of fact, it can apply to adult kids. So this isn't even kids just living in your home. This can apply to adult kids, right? So temperament of children. Think of that as the primary language that they speak. Right? So they're born, they have this natural language. This is how they communicate. That's what a temperament is. It's what determines their interests. It's what influences their behavior. It impacts their tendencies. Temperament is what shapes the words that kids use when they talk, but it also shapes the way they hear words and interpret words. And in some ways, it's kind of like personality, but it is different than personality because personality can change, it can evolve over time, and temperament is fixed. Your temperament at 4 years old and 8 years old and 16 years old is going to be the same temperament you have when you're in your 40s. What we're talking about, nothing new, all right? A guy named Hippocrates came up with this like 2,400 years ago. He was a philosopher and a physician, considered to be by many the father of medicine. And he conceived the idea of these 4 temperaments and used Greek words to label them. And before you dismiss this as just pop psychology, Dave, a family therapist should be talking about this, certainly not you, right? A pastor, this is not something a pastor should be talking about. Let me just remind you that it's important for us to step back from time to time and just remember that God is the creator of everything, right? So God created plants, he created animals, he created stars and galaxies and planets. He created the human body, he created our personality, he created our temperament. He was the one who gave it to us. And what we're doing is just discovering and learning more about what God created. There's a poem in the ancient book of Psalms in which the author writes about the greatness of God, and this is what they write. They say, "How amazing are the deeds of the Lord. All who delight in him should ponder them. Everything he does reveals his glory and majesty." So every time that we discover something new about ourselves, something new about other people, it should just point us to the greatness of God and how creative God is. I mean, he is the mastermind behind every design and every bit of uniqueness in this universe. So, when it comes to the wiring of different individuals, the basic idea of these temperaments is that there are 4 basic temperaments. Now, I've said this at different parts of the series. Graphs like this are not intended, or graphics are not intended to label anybody, right? This isn't to put anybody in a box. If we use it as a tool, which it's intended to be, it helps us, right? It helps us understand ourselves and understand other people. And so real quick, just looking at the colors, we've got sanguines, represented by the color yellow, and these are just outgoing people. They love to have fun. They're the life of the party. Reds, cholerics, they're about power and control. They just like to get things done. Come on, there's a task in front of us. Let's move forward. Greens, phlegmatics, these are people who primarily are about just calm and harmony. They're easygoing people. Melancholics tend to be structured people. Perfection and order is kind of their language, and they're represented by the color blue. And if you're seeing this graphic for the first time, I'm sure it's a little overwhelming, a little confusing. It's like, really, can you really label someone that much? And the answer is, well, we primarily are one of these colors, but we can be a blend. So I'm a red, I have some yellow in me. My wife's a green, she's got some yellow in her. That means there's no blue in our family. There's no order, there's no structure. Everything's just kind of out of control, but that's how our family operates. So, when it comes to children, especially at a young age, it's kind of hard for us to really identify temperaments, right? When kids are little, it's just kind of hard, like, who really are they? And so what I'm going to do today, something I don't remember ever doing in our talks before, is I'm going to pause every so often, and I'm going to show you a video to reveal the temperament of different kids, and I'll tell you what color we're looking at. And what I'm hoping is that you can identify, as you're watching this, hey, that's my kid or my grandkid, and if you got multiple kids, that you can begin to see a little bit of their temperaments in this, all right? And the videos will show a lady by the name of Kathleen Edelman who's interviewing them. She's a therapist, and she wrote a book called A Grown-Up's Guide to Kids' Wiring, okay? The reason I'm holding this is I'm going to tell you, I have read, no joke, probably 50 books on parenting throughout the years. Part of talks, part of just me learning, growing as a parent. This is the best book I have ever read on communicating with children. Again, it can even work with grown-up children. but understanding temperament and communicating with grown-up children. If you're like, I don't like to read, I am not one of those people, right? I am not a blue. I do not like to read. The good news is you can go to Google and you can put in this exact title and then check under the videos. And there are 6 sessions free on YouTube of Kathleen talking about kids and their different temperaments, all right? So let's go back to the graphic. In just a moment, we are going to watch a video of kids who are yellow, all right? These are extroverts. These are individuals who think about people first. I mean, that is their filter. They are the life of the party. They're carefree, they're outgoing, and they're talkative. Here are some yellows.
What do you think some of your strengths are?
My strengths are like being fun and energetic.
Oh, like that? Oh. Yes.
I just love like being the crazy one and having fun with everyone.
Tell me about your friends.
Have a lot of them.
They're nice to me. They play with me. They make me feel good.
Do you like to be alone?
No, not really. It bores me.
Yeah. So if you're thinking you're going to be alone, what do?
Go where people are.
Yeah. You're invited to a big party.
Okay.
Like a big party.
Okay.
You know no one.
Perfect.
Oh, that's perfect.
Perfect.
That was going to be my, would you go?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? How would you do that, though? Like, you're walking in the door. What's the first thing you would do?
What's up?
What do you think about chores? Do you have any?
Yep.
What do you think?
Not so fun.
What's your least favorite thing to do?
I would believe to do homework.
Yeah?
Why did the dog cross the road?
Why?
Because he had to go to the doctor.
Oh. If there was one thing you could change about yourself, what would it be?
Anything?
Yeah.
Anything.
Anything.
I think it'd be dope if I had like wings.
All right, so you have a yellow child, and they're driving you crazy. They're bouncing off the walls. Their energy's out of control. Imagine looking at them and saying, hey, I love your energy. You make this world so fun. Now, I just need a little bit of peace right now, but I got to tell you, I love your energy so much. You bring so much joy to this world. Versus, I am not in the mood for those antics today. I am not in the mood for your drama. I'm not in the mood for your craziness. I need some peace and quiet. Get out of here, right? Or imagine looking to them as they're just talk. Yellows like to talk, and they, right? Imagine looking at them and saying, hey, I love your stories. They're so interesting. They're so, you're over the top, and I tell them it's just so fun. But here's the deal. I just need a little bit of peace right now. I need to get this done versus get to the point, right? You talk too much. You're always exaggerating. So here's the deal. We bring out the best in children when we accept their uniqueness. We bring out the best in our adult children when we accept their uniqueness. If God wanted to, he could have made a machine and created humans that all looked alike and talked alike and had the same mannerisms and personalities, but he intentionally made us unique. God loves diversity. King David of Israel, as he thought about this, in one of his writings, here's the way he puts it. He says to God, he says, you made all the delicate inner parts of my body and knit me together in my mother's womb. He says, thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. Your workmanship is marvelous. How well I know it. Like, I just look at my temperament. I look at my personality. I look at the diversity of other people. And he says, man, there's something about it. The Apostle Paul, in one of his letters, he writes something similar, but he puts it in a different way. He says, we are God's masterpiece. Every child is a masterpiece. Every child is a unique work of art. And you know this, sometimes you look at something and it's hard to understand its value. It's hard to see its value. It's hard to appreciate its value. Years ago, someone picked up this bowl at a garage sale for $3. And they obviously had an eye for value because after they bought it, they started to do some research on it. What I see is a bowl that's probably worth 33 cents, right? If I'm going to buy a bowl, I'm going to buy a bowl that looks a lot more like this. I'm going to buy something that, if I'm paying $3 for it, but they went, they had it appraised, and sure enough, it was worth more than they thought. It was a bowl that was determined to be almost 1,000, or actually over 1,000 years old and date back to ancient China. and it was able to sell at auction for $2.2 million. All right? Here's the deal. Like me, you're saying, man, I could see maybe a little bit more value in this, but that? It's hard to see value sometimes. But every child has incredible value. Every child created by God, they've been given gifts and passions. They've been given unique personality, unique temperament. They've been given experiences or allowed to have experiences in their life. And it makes them unique. And what we have to understand is that when it does come to temperament and the uniqueness of someone's temperament, no one temperament is going to be better than another temperament. We need people who have different temperaments. Just like we need people who are good at different things. We need people who are good at math and people who are good at engineering and people who are good at throwing parties and people who are good at planning things. So every child is unique. Don't miss this, which means that we cannot treat every child the same. We cannot talk to every child the same way. We have to find what is helpful in communicating with each specific child. So let's look at that graphic again. In just a moment, we're going to watch a quick video on blues. Blues are introverts. Right? Blues tend to think task first. They like people, but they tend to think task first, right? That's the filter they see through. They're analytical, they're quiet, they have high expectations of themselves and high expectations of others. So let's look at some blues.
I'm very sensitive. I'm like a perfectionist.
Yeah.
I just kind of feel a little bad for myself.
I like to be early rather than late. I want A's in all classes. I like to be safe than sorry. I don't like to mess up.
What do you think about like big crowds or noise or anything?
I'm not a big fan of noise.
Yeah.
I have a very high nervous system.
Okay.
I'm nervous about going to school, nervous about, like, usually I would just wake up and then get all stressed out.
What is your favorite thing to do?
Probably to read a book.
Really?
Yeah, I really like reading books.
I read National Geographic.
You do? I bet you it gives you a lot of information.
I know the tallest building in the world.
What is it?
It's the Burj Khalifa.
You seem kind of like a rule follower. Are you?
Yes.
Yeah. What if somebody's breaking any rule?
I think they should be following the rule,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not them and I can't make the decision for
Yeah.
them.
What do you think you want to do when you grow up?
Probably like an engineer. Like,
Really?
Yeah. Like I really like coming up with ideas and coming up with and building things and stuff.
What do you get in trouble for?
Not listening very much. I kind of, when I'm focused and zoned out on something, I don't listen at all.
Yeah.
Putting hands on my sister's school, not being quiet.
Really?
Yeah.
What are you doing not to be quiet? That surprises me.
I was just doing examples. I
Okay.
really do be quiet. Though.
Okay.
I love that. Okay, so blues actually do a really good job of having empathy. Because of the emotions that they feel, they're able to actually enter into other people's world. And imagine looking at your blue child and saying, as they get caught up in someone else's life, right? I just love your sensitivity. It's what makes you such a good friend to others versus, oh my gosh, why are you so sensitive to everything? Right? This isn't even your life. Like, you're getting too involved in that. Or when you notice how serious they are, because blues can tend to be serious. They can tend to be very focused. Imagine looking at them and just saying, man, I just love how focused you are and how serious you take school or how serious you take sports or how you bring yourself to whatever you're doing. I just love that versus, oh, dear God, you need to loosen up. You need to have some fun, man. Learn to laugh a little bit. You're just going through life too serious. Well, for some people, that is their temperament. One of the best things that we can do as parents or as teachers or as volunteers working with kids, one of the best things we can do even as our kids get older is be able to identify and embrace the uniqueness of each kid. And the reason that's so difficult is because we all have expectations of our child. We do. And I know we'd like to say, well, no, that's not true, Dave. I just accept them as they are. No, you don't. Because just think of the ways that you speak to them and say, I really wish you would do this more. Right? You have expectations of them. Maybe you want them to be more compliant rather than arguing so much all the time. Or maybe you think they spend way too much alone. You're like, dear God, get out of the house. Go spend some time with people. Invite people over. And it just drives you crazy. Or maybe they never take anything seriously. And you're like, oh, dear God, please, just for a few moments, be serious. For a few moments, stop hanging out with everybody, and you're always wanting everything to be a party, and life can't be a party. Or maybe you wish that they just have some goals in life because you never see a ton of ambition. They're just way too easygoing. Right? We all won't have something, probably a list of things that we're like, man, if I could change this about my kid, I absolutely would. And here's what we need to understand. Almost all parenting tensions are the result of unmet expectations. So whatever expectations we have for our children, whether it's their grades or their work ethic or activities that they should be involved in or how they should be acting and behaving, those expectations are coming from somewhere. They come from all sorts of places. One of the biggest places that expectations come from is our upbringing. That's a big deal. How you were raised, things you were taught, huge deal. Right now, I've shared before how I grew up in a large family, 9 of us. There was a dad and mom, and there were 7 children. All right? Scott, David, Todd, Mark, Katie, Richard, James. All right? There were 7 of us, so we were our own little village. And when you have a village of your own, you have to have structure. You have to have order. And so sure enough, every one of us as kids, we had a dish day that we were responsible for. We had a laundry day that we were responsible for. You wanted something ironed? Guess what? There's an ironing board down there. Figure it out. So to this day, no joke, to this day, I iron all of my own clothes. Just because I grew up. That's what I did. We were expected to work hard. I know this sounds crazy, but when I was 15 years old, I had to start paying like $15 a week to live at home. Okay? Now, what would have happened if you didn't pay that? I don't know, because I was never going to risk it. But my dad was very clear about it. It wasn't to be mean. He said, here's the deal. If you have to pay $15 a week to live at home or $10, he says, here's the deal. It means you're working. You have a job. He goes, and so my goal is just to make sure you're working. Not to take a bunch of money. He's generous and gave it back at different times to different ways. But here's what's interesting. Right now, if you were to study the parenting patterns of myself and my siblings, all of us are obsessed with our kids working hard, taking on responsibility. It's a big, big deal and a big, big value to us, right? So upbringing, dreams that we have for our child is a big deal. We all have dreams of, hey, I really would like to see them do this or accomplish this. And when our dreams do not match up with their temperament or their desires, tension starts to surface. Number 3, a third expectation, or where they come from, is experiences that we've had with other kids. Now, this is especially true if you have had a child and now it's your second child or your third child. It's easy to have expectations based on your experiences with that first child, right? So let's bring up this graphic again. My oldest brother, Scott, so I'm the second oldest. My oldest brother, Scott, is a blue. I'm convinced of it, right? He's a melancholic, perfection in order. Scott is crazy hard worker. He's got super high expectations for himself and super high expectations for the other people in his life. He is a rule keeper, okay? And he also has some green in him. He can care about people being at peace and harmony with each other. Okay, so that's the first child, sets the expectation for the rest of us. Then I'm born. Red, I don't like any rules. I just don't like any structure. I don't want to follow. If I'm going to do anything, I want to have a good time, right? So what happens, though, is one child can set the expectation. This is true if you're a teacher. Maybe you have an experience where you've worked with a couple kids now, and they all just seem to be compliant and get along and easy and fun. And then all of a sudden, you have some crazy yellow come in the room, and all they want is attention the whole time. And it's important to understand everybody has different temperaments. And just one more way that our expectations are formed is from our culture. Every day we're absorbing messages about what boys should do and girls should do and how kids should act and what should be expected. And these messages get into our psyche. So it's very natural to have expectations of our children. I'm going to say it again. Almost all parenting tensions are the result of unmet expectations. And this is why we have to spend time getting to know and getting to understand our children and hopefully getting to the place we embrace them. All right, let's bring up the graphic again. All right, in a moment, we're going to look at some reds. Reds are extroverts. Okay, they love being around people, but when there's a task to be done, they care way more about the task, or they're more focused on the task than they are about people, meaning that if there are people not pulling their weight or something, they're probably going to, the red's probably going to say or do something that hurts their feelings, okay? Reds don't like being controlled, And if something does, they don't have to take charge, but if something needs to be done, they will. They'll step up and take charge. So here are some reds.
Does everything have to be a competition? And I'm like, yes, and I'm going to win.
I like to be in charge and lead.
When do you like to be in charge and lead?
Always.
Always.
Yeah, I'm independent sometimes. And then, yeah, I like to be in charge.
Yeah, I can come off as bossy, but it gets the job done.
What would you say your best strengths are?
I'm a really hard worker. I strive to be like the best person I can be.
I feel like I can delegate. That is one thing that while I do have a tendency to take over, I at least give a person a chance before I do that. I can delegate it out, but then once they prove to me that they can't do it, that is when I start to take things back.
Okay. What do you think are some of the weaknesses that you struggle with?
Probably being bossy, impatient.
I'm not trying to be mean. I usually say that before I say something because now I'm known as the rude one. So before I say anything, I'm not trying to be mean, but this needs to happen, blah, 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 blah.
Do you think that you're misunderstood a lot?
Yeah.
Yeah? Because of what?
The way I carry myself, I guess.
Yeah.
I just want to get to the gist. I'd rather not talk about something for 2 hours. I'd rather say it in 7 words that gets the point across.
Yeah. If somebody is really annoying you.
I let them know.
Oh, do you?
Yes.
Yeah.
I let them know.
What would you say?
Stop!
Ooh.
Yeah, that was good.
That was good.
All right, we see the differences, right? And I can relate to these kids. I just, as they're speaking, I'm like, yes, 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 yes. Here's the deal. You have a red in your house, and they're always arguing with you about the rules because they feel like that rule makes absolutely no logical sense to me. Imagine just looking at them and saying, here's the deal. The rule's in place. We're gonna have it. But I love the way you think. I love the way you logically process information versus your way isn't the only way, right? I'm the parent. We're going to do it this way. Why are you so arrogant and independent all the time? Or imagine when a red child gets involved in a situation they probably shouldn't get involved with, but they have this sense of loyalty to their friends, which that's very common with reds. And imagine you looking at them saying, man, the way you stand up for your friends is so courageous. Versus, why do you always get involved in everybody else's business? Stay out of it. Now you might have to say, hey, I love it, you're courageous, you got to tone it down a little bit. Now, here's the deal. This does not mean we can't coach or guide our children in situations. We need to. But as adults, it's our responsibility to understand temperament and do our best to connect with our children in a way that relates to them. If we do not tame our expectations that we have, then what's going to happen is when our kids fall short, we start to think that something's wrong with our child. Something needs to be fixed. Something needs to change. And when we start thinking that way, oh, they need to change, something's wrong with them, we enter into the danger zone of speaking potentially hurtful words that have the ability to echo in their minds and hearts for the rest of their life. In the danger zone, we say things like, well, why are you so irresponsible? Why can't you be more like your brother? Why do you talk so much? Why are you always so dramatic? Again, it's so important to understand temperament. Now, when I was growing up, I attended a Christian school. Great experience for me. Like every school, at the end of the year, they would give trophies or awards or some sort of recognition, ribbons to students based on certain things. And when I was growing up, one of the awards given at the end of every year was Most Spiritual Award. I never received that award. You know why? I didn't know it then. I know now. Because I'm a red. Reds and yellows don't get Most Spiritual Award. Greens and blues do. Introverts, quiet, more compliant. See, it's easy to label people, right? If you're an introvert, you must be more spiritual. Oh, if you're an extrovert, you're probably a great leader. And if we're not careful, we will look at our child and label them and unintentionally do damage because we don't understand their temperament. Any color can be spiritual. Any color can be a leader. But our child's wiring must inform our expectations of them. So, one more time, let's look at that graphic. Let's look at greens. All right, greens are typically tend to be introverts. They are more people-oriented in their thinking. They are relaxed and peaceful people, and I know that because I'm married to one. They just want to please everybody. They tend to be really good listeners. My wife recently said to me, hey, Dave, I'd like to take leadership and ownership of this. And it was a group of different thing. And I just said, no. Now, greens can be great leaders. But I said, here's the deal. When someone disagrees with you, what are you going to say? Oh, okay. I said, this is just not the right thing for you. And she laughed because she's like, yeah, that's actually true, right? So greens are rarely in a hurry. And check this out. Here are some greens.
So your perfect day, what does it look like?
Oh, doing nothing.
Well, I will just watch TV. I would invite a friend over.
Tell me your absolute favorite thing to do. Read.
I like getting alone time, just having time to self-reflect.
What would you say some of your best strengths are?
Easygoing, sometimes.
Probably bringing like peace and joy to people.
What are some of your weaknesses?
My mom says that I'm very stubborn.
Lazy.
And then like laziness. Or not laziness, just not the urgency to get anything done.
Okay.
Or if there's like chores and I have to like unload the dishwasher, like I will not be the first one on it.
What stresses you out?
Usually, like large groups of people.
I do not really like that much noise. So like keep it quiet.
What are they saying to you?
Put away your laundry. It's usually my mom is like, you've got all this laundry. This has been here for 2 weeks. Go put it away. I'm like, I just like to walk out in the morning and be like, wear this. Great, throw it on.
Because it's so convenient right there, all clean and
You just
folded.
walk out. It's right there.
You don't even have to go. That's great.
All right, again, just different temperaments, right? So I will tell you, living with a green, I can tell you factually, lazy is the wrong word. I think it was a great description. When she says, I just don't have that same sense of urgency, right? My wife works hard, but she's not going to have the same sense of urgency that I have, because for me, everything's urgent. Everything's top priority, right? And so, again, understanding this. If you have a green child and they're always going with the flow and it's starting to drive you crazy because you want them to have a little bit of background, well, imagine just saying to them, thank you for always being so accommodating to others. Versus, why don't you ever have an opinion of your own? You know? Or when they're leading a group of some sort and they're stressed over trying to keep everyone happy. Imagine just saying, hey, you're the kind of leader that teams need because you're so caring. Versus, if you're going to be the leader of that, you need to be more assertive. Now, again, all of us need to grow in this area. And what we've been talking about today and throughout the series, just a tool. Don't get obsessed if you don't understand it all. Don't get obsessed if you can't identify exactly what you are, what your child is, right? Or if you're like, I disagree. It's not, just, here's the deal. It's just about us getting better. And I say this in every parenting talk. As parents, all we can do is our best. The rest is out of our hands. We all want to do our best. And one way we can do that is by learning the temperament of our children and speaking in a way that connects with them, including our adult children. Now, there's so much more I want to say, but you get the idea. Let's work hard in embracing our kids and learning to speak to them in a way that matters to them. So, avoid hurtful words, say helpful words, know what someone needs to hear, and say things in a way they can receive it. May God give us wisdom on how to do this. And as we close today, I just want to say thank you to this church for the investment that you make, we collectively make, in the lives of children on a regular basis. I don't know if you know this, 26% of the budget at Great Lakes Church, 26% goes into kids and students. This is unheard of. Blows me away. When you look at the money we spend on curriculum and staffing and the building space that we allocate to them and the special events we do, we are investing more than $400,000 a year into the next generation. Yeah, absolutely. Last year, we had more than 1,000 individuals, children, and students walk through the doors of our physical locations. That doesn't include those who were engaged with online. That's a huge sphere of influence, and we take it, we hold that responsibility with just a very serious and very grateful attitude, but an attitude of like, man, we want to be responsible, Lord, for what you have given us. And so, Heavenly Father, we just pause and we say thank you for children. Thank you for the life and the joy they bring. Thank you for their different quirks and personalities. And thank you for the different temperaments that children have. I pray, give us wisdom to identify and most understand the temperament of the children you put into our life, and the wisdom to know how to best communicate with them, and the courage, even in the most difficult moments, to do it. In Jesus' name, Amen.